Hello nerds and welcome to Into the Wild, your favourite wildlife and conservation podcast where we look at all things, well, wildlife and conservation.
This is a podcast of curiosity where we know we don't have all the answers.
Oh, that's my co-host Nadia, by the way.
Hi. But it doesn't really matter because we're here to learn and crucially listen to those who are affected by and closest to the issues that we as conservationists tend to pick over from our comfy living rooms.
So strap yourselves in, open up your lugholes, grab a brew and join us as we geek out over nature, share our love for wildlife, rarely take ourselves seriously, all whilst learning. Oh, and we sometimes swear.
Hello.
Hello, I'm tired.
Welcome home.
Thanks.
Hola, I should say.
Hola.
Buenos dias.
Yep.
You did an authentic trip then?
So authentic. It was so authentic that I've got nothing to say.
Yeah, in Spanish specifically.
I can't. No, this holiday. It wasn't even a holiday. It was a break. Just a quick, nippy break.
We need them
You
at
do.
this time of year.
Yeah, but you're right.
Yeah.
It was in no way authentic. I went to Alicante, and that's as much geographical detail as I'm willing to say on the podcast.
And I saw daily updates. I even had people text me what you'd sent them, saying Ryan sent me this. I'm drunk looking at it.
To be fair, I sent pictures to people that said, keep me updated of your holiday. So I will not be dragged through the hedges.
Anyway, I'm glad you're home.
Yeah,
Safe.
I'm tired, but I'm fine. It was good. You know when you just need to let off some steam?
Oh, love. I'm already looking at Malaga for June.
Do you know what I mean? Just needed to like
Just nip over.
nip over. I'm very well though. How are you?
Absolutely cracking. Yeah, great. I feel like I'm like, oh, the year's getting off to a good start. And it's May.
Yeah. Sorry,
January to March are write-offs, really, aren't they, for doing anything, getting anything done? So now I'm like, okay, 2025, let's go.
can I just say, whenever I ask you how you are on the podcast or off the podcast, you always answer like fine, but you never sound fine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, you do, but you're like, yeah, fine, yeah, ha.
It's a weird question, though, isn't it? I think it's because I'm a natural over-explainer and overthinker. So when you say, how are you? I'm like, okay, well, I've got several things that I could explain to you right now about what's going on. And actually, you know, all in all, in summation.
Yeah, you sound like
And
Ross from Friends. I'm fine.
I'm fine. I find it I find it a really hard question to answer because do you know, like, it's just like a social thing, isn't it? You ask someone, like, how you doing? It's just like, oh, it's such a big question. So you have to do an average of all your feelings and what's going on. And I guess that's it.
Nerds, Nadia's like this whenever we discuss anything. And she always goes, oh, I'm an overthinker, aren't I? And I was like, sorry, I zoned out and just was drinking my tea.
I know, Ryan's just like, oh, I'll be like, oh, what do you think? And he'd be like, well, not as much as you.
Not as much. I rarely do, if I'm honest.
Anyway, let's talk
Anywho.
about nature. Let's just try and hone in your very broad question of how are you onto at least what nature we've enjoyed this week so I can give you an accurate answer.
What's been your nature highlight of this week, Nadia?
What has it been? I had a damselfly in my garden this morning.
Oh, nice.
And I've never had a damselfly in my garden.
Never.
Never.
Oh, quite a big garden as well.
Well, I can't look at all of it.
So you might well have done.
No, they'll be there. It was just this.
Where was it, round the moat?
Literally just came and sat on a bit of wood and I was like, oh, hello. What did you make? What joke did you make while I was telling people?
I said, where was it, round the moat?
I don't have a big garden, Ryan. I mean, I have a really big garden. It's the biggest garden I've ever had, but I don't have a moat.
I class your garden as the west coast of Scotland. Lady Shake.
Anyway, what's your highlight?
Mine's a bit WI.
But Women's Institute.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've not said that.
I guess that is a vibe, yeah.
I don't say that lightly. I mean it.
nothing about the WA was ever liked. Let me tell you, I used to give talks about birds to the WA.
The elderflowers are out.
Great.
Which are always lovely to look at because obviously the insect life is...
Oh God, is this going to be gorse all over again?
Yes. I don't know. There actually, do you know what? You said that, and about 20 minutes ago, I was just walking back from Highgate Village, and I did pass an elder tree, and I was like, "That's a lot of flowers on that."
I'm just going to stare at them.
Just stare at them. I'm essentially a hoverfly.
Do you know they are great for looking at insects, though, aren't they?
They are. They attract a lot. But the other thing is, I'm away this weekend. I'm hoping next week there's still loads in flower, to make some cordial. Hence the WI.
Right. You made this last year.
Why?
You pushed it on me at your house. Yeah, I remember.
Well, because I asked you if you wanted a beverage. That's just being a good host.
I probably said I wanted a cup of tea and I got elderflower cordial. No, that's really nice. And actually, maybe I might say to you, Ryan, I would like you to make me a bottle, please.
Well, okay, because that's reciprocity.
It is. And so, in exchange, I will make you something.
How about, I mean, last week on the episode, you told me you were going to dry some seaweed and send it to me.
There you go. I will make sure you've got some really nice something.
That's definitely going to look like drugs in the post.
I know. I'll just put "this is seaweed" on the envelope.
Oh yeah, that'll do it. That's how people get things through customs.
I've got a story about that, but not for the podcast.
No, that's for off record.
Hey, come on then, let's get into it. Let's find out what May's bringing us.
Okie doke.
Do you want to go? Can I go first?
Yeah.
This is largely, this is, I think this is important. It will go as no surprise to anyone that we are having a very, very hot and sunny May.
Yeah.
April. Well, yeah. And so I Googled yesterday, and I think it's relevant because it's to do with the climate. I Googled, and
I have
Googled
no
why
idea
are we having
where this is going.
Well, I just wanted to understand why is it so good, and so
why is it good?
I live in Scotland. Well,
as in, why is it? What do you mean?
Why is it so like sunny and just sunny every day?
Oh, right,
like
gotcha,
sunny and hot and every day. Because I'm looking at the weather reports and it's like, oh, next week hot and sunny every day, hot and sunny. I live on the west coast of Scotland. This is not no. I know it's not normal for everywhere. But like particularly for me, I'm living on the Riviera. Like today I sunbathed. I barely did any work. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, so I looked at it, and basically, if you don't know, it's because we are in something called an omega block.
An omega block.
I just thought it sounded like like an action movie. We're in an omega block. We are blocked in this weather system. So this is what happens when we've got this basically this whole high pressure weather system sitting over the UK at the moment, and the jet stream, because of low pressure either side. So we've got low pressure out to the east in the Atlantic, and we've got low pressure like over Europe, which is where rain happens when you've got low pressure. Either side, it's causing the jet stream, which is a stream of air 10 kilometers up in the atmosphere, which goes from like south up to the north. It's causing the jet stream to do like this wavy up and downy. It weakens the jet stream basically,
right?
And so it's going like troughs and peaks. So like a sound wave goes up and whoop, 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 whoop. And so it mean that kind of weather system means that river of air, the jet stream, is slowing down and starts to meander northwards and southwards, forming those ridges and troughs. And it's called the omega block. And I just thought it sounded really dramatic. So we are now in a weather system called the omega block, and that area of high pressure sitting over the UK is just blocked in. That's it. We're just stuck in it now until something changes. And I guess we're having this really... What happens when you get these block weather systems is that's when you experience drought, etc., because the weather kind of can't do anything or shift. It's kind of stuck in stasis.
So how much... I'm going to ask a question. You might not have the answer to this, or you might.
I probably won't have the answer.
But you might... Yeah, or you could... I think you could have a very educated guess if you didn't have the answer.
Yeah, go on.
But like how much... Like this... How much... Or where is this linked to the overall climate crisis?
So the question here on the article that I read, are blocking patterns happening more often? Is climate change having an impact? So this, I'm just going to read what it says here. So the UK weather system is affected by the polar jet stream. The jet stream is powered by temperature contrast between the tropics and the Arctic. Arctic regions are warming particularly rapidly due to climate change, reducing this temperature contrast. So you've got the warm air from the tropics is kind of drawn up because of the cold in the Arctic. So the difference in temperature draws the jet stream up. And so as because the Arctic is less cold, that polar jet stream is weakening. And because it's weaker, it does this kind of wibbly wobbly thing, causing things like the Omega block and these block systems. It's very, very complex and needs to like constantly be studied. But there's definitely a link there between climate change. And this is just a really good way of explaining of like the weakening of the polar, the jet stream, which basically gives us our weather systems, particularly in the UK, means that there will be these windows now of drought. Like the ground is really dry where I am.
Yeah,
and this
same.
is a time of year when robins and blackbirds are looking for juicy earthworms, and it makes it particularly hard. So like, having a drought at this time of year will inevitably affect like wildlife and how it copes with things. So yeah, hopefully that's explained it.
No, that's really interesting. And I think like, because we have these conversations, I have them with just friends, members of the public, like locally about weather, like about, I mean, prior to, I think Monday in London, before I came home from my trip, we had very heavy rain, hail and heavy rain, like not like your spring kind of rain or April, May rain. It was just heavy rain, which was needed, but obviously caused a bit of flooding in certain areas. But prior to that, in Highgate, Hampstead Archway, where I am, it hadn't rained. There was a bit of drizzle one day, but apart from that, it hadn't rained in 7 weeks, which is a long time. April didn't get anything, like nothing. And it was just so like, so when we talk about these reasons, it's very easy to say it's the climate crisis, even though, everything is linked to these kind of changes going on. But it is also important to understand, well, how is it the climate crisis? Because the climate crisis is the rising of global temperature. That doesn't necessarily mean, the hot weather is that. So you have to try and connect the dots and figure out how the weather patterns or the symptoms are connected to the crisis. So these kind of stories
100%.
are really interesting, I think, to break down.
It's really interesting. I mean, if the polar jet stream collapses,
Oh,
the temperate climate that we've got in the UK will completely disappear. Like our climate will change beyond recognition for the species that have adapted to live here. So, lol.
Hey nerds, sorry to interrupt the show. It's Ryan here. I just wanted to pop on to tell you something quick. We always want Into the Wild to be a free and accessible show, but it does cost to run this thing. So if you ever have any spare pennies or pounds and you want to chuck it towards your favourite nature, wildlife and conservation podcast, then you can do so by going to www.ko-fi.com/intothewildpod. The link is in the write-up of this episode. Anything you're able to give goes straight back into the shows we produce. Anyway, I'll shut up now. Back onto nature news.
Anyway, cheer us up, Brian. Tell me that you've got a funny story.
I haven't got a funny story, but actually I've got a bit of good news.
Great.
Dams, weirs, culverts mean anything to you, Nadia?
They sound like river-related structures.
Correct. Do you know how many river blocking systems there are in Europe?
Whoa. Loads, probably. Do you want me to actually
I want you to
put
throw
a
a number out there. I'll tell you what, it's more... Do you want me to give you a rough ballpark?
No, let me go for
go
it.
for it.
I was going to say, like, I honestly think, like, we might be looking at, like, 50,000.
Okay. There's 1.2 million.
Oh, whoa.
Now, I will say... Not well, actually, let me get... I've got the stats here. I don't want to get this wrong. So let me read this in order of stuff before I start saying anything. But basically...
Is this all beavers?
This is all beavers. See what happens when you release them. So the story is that a record number of river blocking barriers have been removed in Europe. In 2024, Europe dismantled 542 river blocking dams, weirs and culverts. A report has found helping a record number of waterways resume their natural course. Now, before we say anything, I've just said the number 542 when there are 1.2 million blocking systems. So I know it sounds like a needle in a haystack number, right? But this is, it is, but this is an 11% growth from the year before. So the good news here is that they are starting to kind of be removed and things like this. Now, if it found that 23 countries had removed the river barrier last year, 4 of which, Bosnia and Croatia and Czech Republic and Turkey, did so for the very first time.
Nice.
Which is really cool. So Europe's waterways are fragmented by, like I said, 1.2 million barriers, tens of thousands of which are thought to be old and obsolete. Ecologists suggest that damming of the rivers is a significant driver of 75% decline in the continent's freshwater migratory fish. Really?
No shit.
No shit.
You tried walking down a road that just stops and falls into an abyss.
What? I can't. Sorry. I love it when we put stuff like that in an article. It turns out setting yourself on fire hurts.
Yeah.
Thanks for the input there, ecologists. It's not their fault. The report also found...
It's not their fault.
It's not.
If you're an ecologist listening, don't worry. We
You're
don't
not
blame you for saying stupid things.
I think I'm laughing.
Stupidly obvious things.
Yeah, thanks. The report found Finland removed the most barriers, totaling 138
Well done,
within the
Finland.
year, followed by...
I bet that's sound like Finland's got to be a watery country as well.
It does sound like a watery... What? Because of the word Finn. Totaling 138 removals, followed by France at 128, Spain at 96, Sweden at 45, and the UK at 28.
We're not in Europe, so we shouldn't even be counted.
I think this means geographically.
Okay.
Does it? Oh, God.
I just feel like we should stop trying to get in on stuff now. Hello, we removed some. Can we go on your list?
Shut up.
You left.
The partially restored rivers include the Giovenco in Italy, where 5 removals have let a 7-mile stretch of the river run wild for the first time in decades.
Okay, that is incredible.
So this is what I mean. But I say the number 542, and it's not a big number compared to the 1.2 million.
I know, but if you imagine that whole ecosystem, it's good to celebrate that.
Exactly.
Can I just also, for listeners, you need to go back and listen to an episode that we did on rivers, where I think we described and explained how rivers are living ecosystems that do bend and move and they're not static. And I think that will help, if this is kind of confusing to you, why it's so important that we allow rivers to become themselves fully and do what they naturally want to do, why it's important for wildlife. Go back and listen to that episode.
Actually, good point. I'll link that. Nerds, look in the write-up of this episode, and that episode link will be in the write-up. And we'll have a little chat about that in a minute, actually, because that's actually a very good point. But the EU has committed to restoring 25,000 kilometres of river to free-flowing state by 2030, which is kind of all these, these targets that we set. So I know everything's 2030. What's happening in 2030?
I don't know. We should do something. I should have a target.
Sure, should we just check in about stuff?
Yeah.
Culverts and weirs, which are more likely to be old and obsolete, are made up 90% of the removed barriers, according to the report. It found 65% of the barriers were less than 2 meters tall. The reason why these were making up the most is because it's cheaper and easier to remove them than the bigger structures.
They go with the easy ones first.
Exactly.
Easy wins.
I know. Get those stats up. So it is good news. Looking at things like these blockades in river systems that are put in, and I guess it's also important to realise why these are put in. There's a number of different reasons, from kind of storing water to flooding areas to irrigation, all this kind of stuff, that why it was originally done. Some areas you can kind of understand why historically, maybe a long time ago, it was done. Other reasons you're kind of a bit more like, ugh, gross. I mean,
I guess it's just really positive sign that governments understand that this is a significant enough issue that can't go on, in terms of, like, if we want to restore our ecosystems and we want to stop killing our rivers, we're going to have to do this and find an alternative method for whatever it was that we did in the first, And
I think also, just taking away things that are there, just not doing anything as well.
I just imagine like a little frog trying to get up, and being like, ah.
Yeah, I mean, that's sad. Yeah, that is sad.
Fish, obviously, as well.
Yeah.
That's great news.
So yeah, good news is on the app, hopefully.
Do you want my other piece of news?
Yeah, go for it.
This is the news that the Bradford Pennine Gateway National Nature Reserve has been created.
Oh, nice.
The Bradford Pennine Gateway is one of only a small number of the King series to be. Anyone that knows me knows. To be in such close proximity to a city. So the NNR covers 8 ecologically connected sites across an extensive urban fringe landscape, including Ilkley Moor, Baildon Moor, Shipley Glen, Trench Meadows, St Ives Estate, Harden Moor, Bingley Bog North and Penistone Country Park. We're talking mainly about upland, boggy, moorland habitats here.
What was the second to last one, sorry?
The second to last one is... Are you
It just sounded
Is
funny. It rolled off the tongue beautifully. I want to hear it again.
Oh, Bingley Bog North.
Thank you.
Bingley Moor is somewhere near to where I used to live. So I guess one of the reasons why this means so much to me and something that I'm quite excited about is it's creating a national nature reserve near Bradford, which is got a hugely dense population of people, but also a huge Pakistani population. Like I massively celebrate that. Right near to an urban area to have an NNR, which doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to get all the protections that it needs, but at least it will be, there will be more investment to restore habitats. Hopefully, it doesn't always follow. Sometimes we just make nature reserves and on paper they're a nature reserve, but it doesn't mean they get more investment or any more protection. But it can also mean that, trails and infrastructure for car parks, etc., push funding to get people out into nature and enjoy and have pride in this vast landscape, particularly because it's an area where there are grouse moors and there's a lots of deep peat burning. I remember being on Ilkley Moor once during lockdown, and from where I could see 4 different burns across moors for grouse moors. So like, I guess it, when we're starting our focus on nature and people connecting with nature, there will be certain kinds of investment and focus in that space. So that makes me super happy. And actually, can I just give a little shout out to my mom, who I spoke to last week, and she is taking part in No Mo May, which blows my mind.
Yes. Go on, Barbara.
So, and also, I also just wanted to say, before I mentioned about Bradford having a high Pakistani population, just for listeners that don't know, I am of Pakistani heritage. And so that's why I said that. And I particularly take an interest in
that's a good
non-white
point.
people spending time in nature and being represented in the outdoors is really super important.
It's easy to forget that, on this show, it's just your voice.
It's just my voice, yeah.
Why is that Geordie
And
so
also,
interested in the Pakistani culture in Bradford?
I'm a Geordie as well, so my voice is Newcastle-y. Can't judge a book by its voice, can you?
Cannot, as the phrase goes. Well,
that's also we have. I think because our last week we were in a really neggy space. Have we just brought the joy?
I mean, I've smiled a lot on this episode.
I know, my mouth hurts a bit.
It's nice. Nerds, thanks so much for tuning in. As always, you know where we are on socials. Journey Back to Namibia, all 4 of those episodes are now out. Nadia and I are incredibly proud and feel privileged really to share those kind of stories with you all. So please go back. First one came out in January and they came out once a month. So catch up on all 4 of those episodes, and there's some good news at the end of the final episode on there as well. We're going to be back weekly for Nature News. We've got no more longer episodes planned in at the moment, apart from a few live shows coming up. But I'm sure we'll be producing something pretty soon for you. But for now, it's just going to be these wonderful weekly Nature News chats. As always, if you've got anything and you want to support Into the Wild, coffee.com/Into the Wild pod. All the links are in the write-up below. Enjoy the rest of your week. If it is sunny and dry where you are, I hope everything looks beautiful still and you're doing all right. But we'll talk to you next week.